My professor threatened to fail me for missing class because I was in court testifying against my father. When I begged him to reconsider, he smirked and said, "We all have to deal with personal drama." I didn't say a word. That was 2 months ago. Last night, he locked himself in his office, and campus security had to break the door open. I missed a single midterm. 1. I had a 93% in the class. I emailed my professor 3 days before, explained everything, where I'd be, why I couldn't be there, and attached the court summons as proof. This wasn't even my first issue with him. He'd previously rolled his eyes when I asked for extra office hours and told me, "This isn't high school." When I told him my PTSD makes timed tests harder, he said, "Everyone has something." He was that kind of professor, dismissive, cold, smug about being harsh. I was always terrified to give him any reason to dislike me more. But this wasn't something I could just skip. I was testifying against my father, the man who broke my ribs when I was 10, who slammed my mom into walls so hard the neighbors once thought we had a car crash inside, who made my little brother flinch every time a door shut too loud. And for the first time in our lives, we were all going to speak against him, together, in court. It took me years to convince my family we were strong enough, brave enough. I wasn't going to miss it. So I sent the email. I was respectful. I even said, "I'll take a 0 if I have to. I just wanted to ask." He replied with, "We all have to deal with personal drama. If you miss this test, I will be forced to fail you from my class." That was it. No, sorry to hear that. No reschedule, no acknowledgement. I reread it 5 times. I felt like I was being slapped for even asking. His no terrified me, but not as much as what I was preparing for. Because when I walked into court to testify against my father, he looked right at me and said, "Loud enough for me to hear, you think this makes you free? I'll find you." That night after the trial, I couldn't sleep. So I made a video. No makeup. Hoodie on. Just me reading the email. Then I added a photo of the court docket, a blurred out version of the testimony schedule, a screenshot of the syllabus that clearly said, "Emergencies will be considered." I didn't expect much. By the time I woke up, the video had over 25,000 views. People were furious, and rightfully so. Students from my school flooded the comments. "Is this Professor Larrington? He failed me too when my mom died. He told me migraines weren't real." The university's email inbox slammed. By 5 p.m., he sent me a new email. "Apologies. You can retake the midterm. Let me know when." No apology for what he said. Just a reset. I retook the exam, got an 89, passed the class. I thought that was the end of it. It wasn't. 2 weeks later, I got a call from my mom. Her voice was shaking. "He knows," she said. "He knows where you are." I asked her what she meant. She told me my dad called her, laughing. Said he was proud of the TikTok I made. Said he hoped I was ready to see him again soon. He mentioned the university, my dorm building, even my class schedule. I asked how he got that. She said, "He said a professor gave it to him." My heart stopped as I realized I knew exactly which professor contacted him. I quickly filed an incident report. They escalated it to admin. My lawyer called the courthouse, confirmed it. My dad had posted bail. He was out. And now he knew where I was, because the same man who punished me for testifying gave him a map back to me. I haven't slept since. I have a friend sleeping on my floor. I don't go anywhere alone. I've got pepper spray in every bag, a makeshift alarm on my door, and a security app on my phone. The university says they're investigating. I've since posted an update video. I told people what happened and blurred names. But the comment section exploded. People were outraged, DMing the university, sharing the story, tagging advocacy groups. They were defending me harder than my own school. I haven't heard from the professor since, but I've received emails from 3 different women on campus who said he dismissed them too, for deaths, surgeries, violence, grief. I forwarded everything to the Title IX office. It's been 4 days since I posted that update. I'm still in my dorm, but not for long. My roommate Zoe has been amazing through all this. She's barely left my side except for her classes, and even then she makes sure our friend Marcus walks me to mine. I've been jumping at every noise in the hallway. Campus security said they'd increase patrols, but honestly, what good is that going to do? My dad isn't some random stranger they can spot. He's just a normal-looking guy who happens to be a monster. Yesterday, I got called into the dean of students' office. I was freaking out the whole walkover. Marcus waited outside for me. The dean, Dr. Patel, was actually pretty decent about everything. She had printouts of my videos on her desk, which was super weird to see. She told me they were taking the situation very seriously, and that Professor Larrington had been placed on administrative leave pending investigation. I should have felt relieved, but all I could think was that now he had even more free time to help my dad. I asked what they were doing about my safety. Dr. Patel offered to move me to a different dorm, but I pointed out that my dad already knew which building I was in. What's to stop him from just waiting outside and following me? She didn't have a great answer for that. The university apparently can't do much beyond filing a police report, which I'd already done myself. When I got back to my dorm, I had 3 new emails from other students. All of them had horror stories about Professor Larrington. One guy, Trevor, said Larrington failed him after he missed a final because his apartment caught fire. Another student, May, said he told her that her anxiety was just an excuse when she asked for extended time. It's like this guy gets off on making students suffer. I spent most of the night researching my options. The campus police suggested I get a restraining order against my dad, but that's just a piece of paper. It won't stop him if he really wants to find me. My mom called again. She's staying with my aunt in another state, and she's taken my little brother out of school. At least they're safe. This morning, I woke up to a notification that someone had tried to access my student portal. The IT department flagged it as suspicious because it came from an IP address across town. My hands were shaking so bad I could barely type my password to change it. I called campus IT right away, and they confirmed someone had tried to log in multiple times. They couldn't tell me who, but we all know. I decided I needed to get off campus. My friend Amber offered to let me crash at her apartment for a while. It's off-campus housing, not listed anywhere in my student records. I packed a bag with the essentials and some textbooks. Zoe helped me carry everything to Amber's car when she came to pick me up. I felt like I was being watched the whole time, scanning every face, every car. Amber's place is small but secure. 3rd floor, good locks, and her roommate Darius is this huge guy who plays football. I feel safer here than in my dorm, but I still jump every time someone knocks on the door. I've been sleeping on their couch, trying to keep up with my classes online as much as possible. The Title IX coordinator emailed me this afternoon. She wants to meet tomorrow to discuss next steps regarding Professor Larrington. I'm nervous about going back to campus, but Amber and Darius both offered to come with me. Strength in numbers, I guess. I've been checking my phone constantly. Part of me is terrified I'll get a message from my dad, and part of me is terrified I won't and he'll just show up somewhere. I keep having flashbacks to when I was a kid, how he would act all normal and charming in public, then turn into a monster at home. No one ever believed us because he was so good at hiding it. My therapist squeezed me in for an emergency session over Zoom. She reminded me to breathe, to focus on what I can control, but it's hard when it feels like my life is spiraling. She suggested I document everything, which I've been doing obsessively. Every weird notification, every suspicious email, every time I think I see someone who looks like my dad or Professor Larrington. The comments on my videos are still blowing up. Some people are saying I should sue the university. Others are offering to let me stay with them, which is nice but also kind of scary considering I don't know these people. A few trolls are saying I'm making it all up for attention, which makes me want to scream. Why would anyone make this up? I got a weird email tonight from an address I didn't recognize. It just said, "You should be more careful about what you share online." No signature, nothing else. I reported it to campus security, but they just added it to my file. I'm trying not to panic, but it's getting harder. My brother called me from my aunt's house. He's only 15, but he sounded so grown up. He told me he was proud of me for standing up to dad, for making the videos. He said he wished he was brave like me. I started crying because I don't feel brave at all. I feel terrified all the time, but hearing him say that made me realize I have to keep fighting. Not just for me, but for him, too. Tomorrow, I have to go meet with the Title IX people. Then I have a class I can't miss because we have a group project presentation. I'm going to have Amber drop me off and pick me up. I've mapped out exactly where I'll be, made sure there are always people around. I've told all my professors what's going on, and most of them have been understanding, except for Professor Winters, who's taking over Larrington's class temporarily. He sent an email to everyone saying we shouldn't jump to conclusions about Professor Larrington and that there are two sides to every story. I wanted to reply asking what possible justification there could be for giving my information to my abusive father, but I didn't. I just forwarded his email to the Title IX office. I keep checking the windows at Amber's apartment, making sure they're locked. I've set up a chair against the door, even though Darius laughed and said no one's getting past him. I can't help it. Years of hypervigilance don't just go away because you're technically safer. The police called with an update about my dad. They've been trying to locate him, but haven't had any luck. His last known address was vacated, and he hasn't shown up at his job in days. That scares me more than if they'd found him, honestly. It means he could be anywhere, watching, waiting. I'm trying to stay focused on my classes, on just getting through each day. But it's hard when every notification makes my heart race, when every stranger could be him. I keep thinking about what he said in court. I'll find you. And now, thanks to Professor Larrington, he might. I woke up this morning on Amber's couch with a stiff neck and that familiar knot of dread in my stomach. Today's the day I have to go back to campus for that Title IX meeting. I checked my phone, 3 missed calls from my mom, and a text from Zoe asking if I'm okay. I called my mom back first. She sounded exhausted, said my dad's car was spotted near my aunt's neighborhood yesterday. Just driving through, but still, they're thinking about moving again. I feel so guilty that my whole family is being uprooted because of me. Amber made coffee while I showered. I borrowed some of her clothes since I didn't pack much. Darius was already gone for early football practice, but he left a note saying he'd meet us on campus later. The ride to school was quiet. I kept checking the mirrors to see if anyone was following us. Amber noticed and tried to distract me by blasting music and singing badly. It helped a little. We parked far from the administration building, which meant walking across the quad. I wore a baseball cap and kept my head down. Stupid, probably. It's not like my dad wouldn't recognize me just because I'm wearing a hat. Every male figure in the distance made my heart rate spike. A guy who looked vaguely like Professor Larrington was talking to some students near the library, and I nearly had a panic attack until I realized it was just Professor Chen from the math department. The Title IX coordinator, Ms. Reeves, met us in a small conference room. She had this serious, concerned expression that made me nervous right away. Amber waited outside. Ms. Reeves started by telling me they were taking my complaint very seriously. Then she got to the part I was dreading. They needed more evidence. Professor Larrington was denying everything. Said he never contacted my father, never shared my information. Said I was making it all up for attention after our disagreement about the midterm. I couldn't believe it. I asked how my dad could possibly know my schedule, my dorm building, everything, if Larrington hadn't told him. Ms. Reeves just gave me this sympathetic look and said they were exploring all possibilities. She mentioned that my TikTok had a lot of information that could have been pieced together. I pointed out that I had blurred everything identifying, but she just nodded like she was humoring me. I left feeling worse than when I went in. Amber could tell something was wrong. I filled her in as we walked to the science building for my group presentation. She was furious, kept saying the university was trying to cover their A's. She's probably right. The presentation went okay, I guess. I was on autopilot. My group members, Jaden and Kira, carried most of it. They've been super understanding about everything. Afterward, Jaden mentioned he saw someone who looked like my dad asking about classroom location. applications at the information desk yesterday. My blood went cold. I asked for details, but he couldn't remember much. Just an older guy, kind of intense, asking a lot of questions. I texted Darius right away. He met us outside the building and walked us back to Amber's car. The whole time I felt exposed, like there were eyes on me from every direction. We were almost to the parking lot when I saw him, Professor Larrington, standing by the English building watching me. He didn't approach, didn't say anything, just stared. Darius noticed my reaction and asked what was wrong. When I pointed, Larrington turned and walked away. Back at Amber's apartment, I called campus security to report the sighting. They said they'd make a note of it, but couldn't do anything since he wasn't technically banned from campus yet. The investigation was still ongoing. I wanted to scream. I checked my email and found a message from Dr. Patel, the dean. She wanted to meet again tomorrow. No explanation why. Just urgent matters to discuss. Great. More stress. Amber suggested I stay off social media for a while, but it's the only place I feel supported right now. The comments on my videos are full of people sharing similar stories, offering advice, virtual hugs. Some law students even messaged me offering to help with restraining orders pro bono. I took one of them up on it. A third year named Vanessa who seems to really know her stuff. I couldn't sleep that night. Kept thinking I heard noises outside the apartment. Around 3 a.m., a car alarm went off in the parking lot. I nearly jumped out of my skin. Darius went to check it out but said it was just some random car, probably set off by a cat or something. Still, I stayed awake until sunrise, just staring at the ceiling. The meeting with Dr. Patel the next day was unexpected. She seemed different, less sympathetic, more businesslike. She had a folder in front of her with printouts of my TikToks. She started by saying the university was concerned about the narrative being presented online, that they had a responsibility to all parties involved, including Professor Larrington. My stomach dropped. Then she slid a paper across the desk. It was an agreement, basically saying I would remove my videos, stop discussing the situation publicly, and in return, they would transfer me to different classes and provide security accommodations. I asked what would happen to Larrington. She avoided the question, just repeated that they were investigating thoroughly. I didn't sign it. Told her I needed to think about it. She seemed annoyed but said I had 48 hours to decide. As I was leaving, she mentioned that these situations could impact a student's academic standing and that the university values discretion. It felt like a threat. I was shaking when I met Amber outside. She took one look at my face and suggested we go get coffee off campus to talk. We went to this little place called Bean There, done that, about a mile from school. I was telling her about the meeting when I noticed a man sitting alone in the corner, partially hidden behind a newspaper. Something about his posture seemed familiar. I tried to get a better look without being obvious. The man lowered his paper slightly, and I caught a glimpse of his face. It wasn't my dad. It was worse. It was Professor Larrington. He was watching us. Amber saw my expression and turned to look. By the time she did, he was gathering his things. He walked past our table on his way out. Didn't say a word. Just gave me the small, knowing smile that made my skin crawl. We left immediately. Amber wanted to report it, but what would we say? That a professor was having coffee at a public place? It wasn't illegal, just terrifying. Back at the apartment, I found a note had been slipped under the door. Plain white paper, typed message. Family matters should stay in the family. No signature. Darius wasn't home yet. Amber called the police, but they just took a report over the phone. Said there was no explicit threat, so not much they could do. I was starting to feel like I was losing my mind. Was I overreacting? Was this all just coincidence? But then I remembered my dad's words in court. I'll find you. And I knew this was real. The danger was real. That night, someone tried to get into the apartment. We heard the doorknob rattling around midnight. Amber called 911 while Darius grabbed a baseball bat and stood by the door. By the time the police arrived, whoever it was had gone. The officers looked around outside but didn't find anyone suspicious. They suggested we get a security camera. I couldn't stay there anymore. I was putting my friends in danger, but where could I go? My mom and brother were hiding at my aunt's. My other friends all lived on campus, which wasn't safe either. I felt trapped. The next morning, I got an email from an address I didn't recognize. The subject line was, "We need to talk." The message was brief. I know what Larrington did. I have proof. Meet me at the library, 3rd floor study room C, 2 p.m. today. Come alone. No signature. I showed Amber and Darius. They both said it was obviously a trap. But what if it wasn't? What if someone really did have evidence? I needed something concrete to take to the Title IX office, to the police. Something they couldn't ignore. We argued about it for an hour. Finally, we came up with a compromise. I would go, but not alone. Darius would come with me, but stay nearby, not in the room. Amber would wait outside the library as backup. We'd all keep our phones on and ready to call for help. The library was busy when we arrived, which was reassuring. Lots of witnesses if anything happened. Darius positioned himself at a study table with a clear view of Room C. I took a deep breath and went in. The room was empty when I got there. I sat down, keeping my phone in my hand, ready to text Darius if needed. At exactly 2 p.m., the door opened. A woman walked in. I didn't recognize her at first. Then it clicked. She was Professor Larrington's teaching assistant, Natalie. I'd seen her in class a few times. She looked nervous, kept glancing over her shoulder as she sat down. She pulled out a folder and slid it across the table without saying anything. I opened it cautiously. Inside were printouts of emails between Professor Larrington and my father. My hands started shaking as I read them. The first email was from my dad, dated right after my TikTok went viral. He'd somehow found Larrington's email and reached out, saying he was concerned about his daughter and wanted to resolve the situation. Larrington's response was brief but damning. He gave my dad my sexual, my dorm info, everything. He even suggested times when I'd be alone between classes. I looked up at Natalie, who was watching me with a mixture of guilt and determination. She explained in a hushed voice that she had access to Larrington's university email for administrative purposes. She'd found these while looking for something else, and realized what was happening. She'd been debating what to do for days before finally deciding to contact me. I asked why she was helping me. She hesitated, then rolled up her sleeve. There were old scars on her arm. She didn't elaborate, just said she knew what it was like to be afraid of someone who should protect you. I thanked her, trying not to cry. This was it. Actual proof that Larrington had helped my dad. As we were talking, my phone buzzed with a text from Darius. Someone's watching the room. Older guy, baseball cap. Not coming closer, but definitely watching. My heart started racing. Natalie saw my face change and asked what was wrong. I showed her the text. She went pale, said she needed to go, that no one could know she'd helped me. She made me promise not to tell anyone where I got the emails. Before she left, she whispered that Larrington had been acting strange lately, paranoid, canceling office hours, jumping at noises, like he was afraid of something, or someone. After she left, I texted Darius to come get me. We exited through a different door than we came in, just in case. Outside, Amber was waiting in her car, engine running. We piled in and she took off before I could even close my door properly. Back at the apartment, I spread the emails out on the coffee table. They were damning, explicit. Larrington hadn't just given my dad information, he'd actively encouraged him. There was even one where he complained about entitled students who cry trauma to get special treatment. It made me sick. I called Vanessa, the law student, who'd offered to help. She came over that evening to look at the emails. She was furious on my behalf, said this was a clear FERPA violation, possibly criminal. She helped me scan everything, create a file with all the evidence, said I should take it to the police, not just the university. That night, I got another call from my mom. She was crying, said my dad had shown up at my aunt's house, just standing across the street, watching. They called the police, but he was gone before they arrived. They were packing to leave again, heading to a hotel. My brother got on the phone briefly. He sounded so small, so scared. It broke my heart. I couldn't sleep again. Kept thinking about my family on the run while I was hiding at a friend's apartment. About Professor Larrington smugly denying everything while secretly feeding information to my abuser. About the university trying to silence me rather than protect me. In the morning, I made a decision. I wasn't going to sign Dr. Patel's agreement. I wasn't going to be quiet. I was going to fight back. I made another video. This time, I didn't blur the emails. I didn't name Natalie or say how I got them, but I showed Larrington's words in his own writing. I explained how the university had tried to get me to sign an NDA, how they'd prioritized their reputation over my safety. I posted it before I could lose my nerve. It exploded even faster than the first one. Within hours, it had over 1 million views. News outlets started reaching out. Student groups on campus organized a protest outside the administration building. The hashtag #Fire Larrington was trending locally. Dr. Patel called me almost immediately. She sounded panicked, asked why I would escalate the situation when they were working on a resolution. I told her I had given them a chance to do the right thing, and they chose not to. She said I needed to come in right away to discuss the ramifications of my actions. I agreed to meet her, but not alone. Vanessa came with me as my advocate. Dr. Patel was not happy to see her. The meeting was tense. Dr. Patel kept talking about university procedures and proper channels. Vanessa countered with terms like negligence and liability. By the end, Dr. Patel was no longer suggesting I sign anything. Instead, she said the university would be accelerating their investigation into Professor Larrington. As we were leaving the administration building, I spotted him, Professor Larrington, standing by his car in the faculty parking lot. He was watching me with this cold, calculating expression. When he saw me notice him, he didn't look away, just stared, like he was trying to intimidate me. Vanessa saw him too and put herself between us, walking me quickly to her car. That afternoon, campus security called. They'd received reports of someone matching my dad's description, asking questions about me at the student center. I felt like the walls were closing in. Both of them were looking for me now. I decided to stay at Vanessa's apartment that night. She lived in a secure building with a doorman farther from campus. Amber and Darius helped me pack up my stuff again. I felt bad for bouncing around, putting different friends at risk, but I didn't know what else to do. Vanessa's place was small but neat. Law books everywhere. She set me up on her futon and showed me how the security system worked. 3 locks on the door. I finally felt safe enough to get a few hours of sleep. The next morning, I woke up to my phone ringing. It was a number I didn't recognize. I almost didn't answer, but something told me I should. It was Natalie, Professor Larrington's TA. She was whispering, sounded terrified, said Larrington knew she had taken the emails, that he had confronted her, threatened her. She was hiding in a bathroom on campus, afraid to come out. I told her to stay put, that I would get help. I called campus security and gave them her location. Then, I called Darius, who was already on campus for practice. He was closer. He said he'd go check on her, make sure she was okay until security arrived. 20 minutes later, Darius called back. He'd found Natalie, but she was really shaken up. Security had come and taken a report, but they couldn't do much since Larrington hadn't physically harmed her, just scared her. Darius was bringing her to Vanessa's apartment since she was too afraid to go home. When they arrived, Natalie looked like she hadn't slept in days. Her hands wouldn't stop shaking. She told us everything. How Larrington had figured out she was the one who took the emails. How he'd cornered her in his office and told her she'd regret interfering. How he'd mentioned knowing where she lived. It was the same playbook he'd used with me. Vanessa documented everything Natalie told us, taking notes for a potential restraining order. I made Natalie some tea, feeling a strange sense of calm despite everything. For the first time, I wasn't alone in this. Other people had seen behind Larrington's mask. We had evidence. We had each other. That afternoon, I got an email from the Title IX office. Professor Larrington had been placed on administrative leave pending the outcome of the investigation. His campus access had been revoked. It wasn't enough, but it was something. Natalie decided to stay with a friend rather than go home. Before she left, she hugged me and apologized for not coming forward sooner. I told her I understood. Fear is a powerful thing. Later that evening, my phone rang again. Unknown number. I answered cautiously. It was my dad. My blood turned to ice as I heard his voice. He sounded calm, almost cheerful, said he'd been looking all over for me, that we needed to talk face to face, that running and hiding wasn't going to solve anything. I didn't say a word, just listened in horror as he described places I'd been recently. The coffee shop, the library, Amber's apartment building. He knew. He'd been watching, following. He ended with, "Your professor friend isn't very reliable anymore, but I don't need him to find you." I hung up and immediately called the police. They took a report, but said the same thing as before. Without an explicit threat, there wasn't much they could do. They suggested I come to the station to file for a restraining order in person. Vanessa offered to drive me first thing in the morning. That night was the worst yet. Every noise made me jump. I kept thinking I saw shadows moving outside the windows. Vanessa stayed up with me talking, trying to keep my mind occupied. She told me about other cases she'd worked on, other survivors who had fought back and won. It helped a little. Morning came after what felt like years. I was exhausted, but determined. Vanessa and I were getting ready to go to the police station when my phone buzzed with a news alert. Local university professor suspended amid allegations of misconduct. There was Larrington's face on my screen. The article mentioned serious violations of student privacy and ongoing investigations. For a moment, I felt a flicker of victory. Then my phone rang again. My mom. She was crying so hard I could barely understand her. My brother was missing. He'd gone outside to get something from the car at the hotel where they were staying and never came back. They found his phone on the ground next to the car. No sign of a struggle, but no sign of him either. I knew immediately. My dad had him. This was his revenge. For testifying. For the videos. For everything. My mom was still talking, saying the police were looking. That I should stay where I was. Stay safe. But I couldn't. This was my fault. I had to fix it. I told Vanessa what happened. She immediately said we needed to call the police, that I shouldn't try to handle this myself. She was right, logically. But logic wasn't driving me anymore. Fear was. Fear for my brother. I knew my dad, knew what he was capable of. The police wouldn't find him in time. While Vanessa was in the other room calling the police, I got a text from another unknown number. Want to see your brother again? Come alone to the old boathouse at Lakeside Park. 1 hour. Tell anyone and he pays for it. There was a photo attached. My brother, looking terrified, holding today's newspaper. I didn't think. I just acted. I grabbed my keys, my phone, and slipped out while Vanessa was still on the phone. I left her a note saying I was going to the police station myself, that I needed some time alone. A lie, but I couldn't risk my brother's safety. I took an Uber to a spot near the park, then walked the rest of the way. My heart was pounding so hard I could feel it in my throat. The park was mostly empty on a weekday morning. The old boathouse sat at the edge of the lake, partially hidden by trees. It had been closed for renovations for months. As I approached, I tried to formulate a plan. I had my phone. I could record, call for help if needed. I had the pepper spray in my pocket, but mostly I was running on adrenaline and desperation. The boathouse door was unlocked. I pushed it open slowly, wincing at the creak of rusty hinges. Inside was dim, dusty, construction materials scattered around. And there, sitting on a bench by the window, was my brother, alone. No sign of my dad. I rushed to him, checking if he was hurt. He seemed physically fine, just scared and confused. He told me dad had tricked him, said mom needed help carrying something, had grabbed him and forced him into a car, brought him here and told him to wait, that I was coming. I was helping him up when I heard footsteps behind me. I turned, expecting to see my dad. Instead, I saw Professor Larrington. He was smiling that same cold smile from the coffee shop. And next to him, looking equally pleased with himself, was my father. Family reunion, my dad said, closing the door behind them. Just like old times. I froze, my arm still around my brother's shoulders. My dad and Larrington stood there, like some twisted team up I never saw coming. My mind was racing, trying to figure out how to get us both out of here safely. You two know each other? I asked, trying to buy time while I slipped my hand into my pocket, feeling for my phone. My dad laughed. Your professor reached out after your little internet stunt. Turns out we have a lot in common. Both of us dealing with ungrateful kids who don't know their place. Larrington nodded. Your father understands respect. Something you clearly never learned. I could feel my brother trembling beside me. I squeezed his shoulder, trying to reassure him. My phone was in my pocket, but I couldn't exactly pull it out and call for help with them watching. I needed a distraction. So what's the plan here? I asked, trying to sound braver than I felt. You can't just keep us here. We're going to have a family discussion, my dad said, taking a step closer. About consequences, about loyalty, about keeping family business private. I backed up, pulling my brother with me. This isn't exactly private with him here. I nodded toward Larrington. Richard is a friend now, my dad said. He understands what it's like when someone tries to ruin your life with lies. Larrington, Richard, was scanning the boathouse like he was looking for something. Where's your little friend? The teaching assistant? I thought she might show up too. I came alone, like you asked, I said, still backing up until we hit the wall. There was a window behind us, but it was too small for either of us to fit through. My dad pulled out his phone. Let's call your mother, tell her everything's fine, that you and your brother are with me now. She won't believe you, I said. She will if you tell her, he replied, holding out the phone. I shook my head. I'm not doing that. His face darkened. That familiar look that always came before the worst moments of my childhood. You don't have a choice. Larrington was getting fidgety. We should hurry this up, someone might come looking. No one knows we're here. My dad snapped at him. I saw my chance. Actually, I told my roommate exactly where I was going, and the police. They're probably already on their way. It was a complete lie. But I saw doubt flicker across Larrington's face. My dad just laughed. Nice try. I've known you your whole life. You're a terrible liar. He was right about that, but his certainty gave me an idea. Fine, I said, trying to sound defeated. What do you want me to do? Take down the videos? I will. Just let my brother go. My dad seemed to consider this. The videos are just the start. You've been poisoning this family against me for years, making up stories, turning your mother against me. Your brother. My brother, who had been silent until now, suddenly spoke up. She didn't make up anything. I saw what you did to Mom, to her, to all of us. My dad's attention shifted to him, and I used that moment to slide my hand back into my pocket. This time, I managed to press the emergency SOS on my phone. I had no idea if it would work, if anyone would come, but it was something. You, too? My dad said to my brother. After everything I've done for you? What have you ever done except make us afraid? My brother shot back, and I felt a surge of pride through my fear. He'd always been the quiet one, the one who tried to stay invisible around our dad. Larrington was pacing now, clearly nervous. This is taking too long. We need to get them out of here. To where? I asked, trying to keep them talking. Every minute we stalled was another minute for someone to realize we were missing. Somewhere we can sort this out privately, my dad said. As a family. He's not family. I nodded at Larrington again. No, but he's been very helpful, my dad smiled. Providing information, a place to meet. He even suggested this little trip might convince you to be more cooperative about those videos. Larrington stopped pacing. I never said to hurt them, just to scare them a little. Make them understand actions have consequences. My dad gave him a look that made my blood run cold. I'd seen that look before, right before the worst beatings. Sometimes lessons need to be memorable. I could see Larrington realizing he might be in over his head. He wasn't a physical abuser like my dad. He was the type who used his position, his authority, different kinds of monsters. This wasn't the agreement, Larrington said, backing toward the door. I'm not getting involved in anything illegal. My dad's attention was fully on Larrington now. A bit late for that, isn't it? Sharing student information? Helping me find them? Pretty sure that's already illegal. While they argued, I whispered to my brother, when I say run, head for the door. Don't stop. He gave a tiny nod. I reached into my other pocket, gripping the pepper spray. I'm leaving, Larrington announced, turning toward the door. This has gone too far. My dad grabbed his arm. You're not going anywhere until this is finished. That was my chance. Run! I shouted, pulling out the pepper spray and aiming it at both men. My brother bolted for the door as I sprayed. I caught my dad directly in the face. He screamed, hands going to his eyes. Larrington got some splashback and staggered sideways, but he was still between us and the exit. My brother reached the door first, yanking it open. Larrington, despite the pepper spray, lunged for him. I threw myself forward, tackling Larrington from behind. We all went down in a heap by the doorway. Go! I yelled at my brother. Get help! He hesitated for just a second, then ran. Larrington was trying to get up, to grab me, but I kicked him hard and scrambled away. My dad was still on the floor, cursing and rubbing his eyes, but he'd be recovering soon. I made it outside just as Larrington grabbed my ankle. I went down hard on the gravel path, the wind knocked out of me. He was pulling me back toward the boathouse, his face red and swollen from the spray. You stupid, ungrateful little, he started, but was cut off by a shout. Hey, let her go. I looked up to see Darius sprinting toward us, with Vanessa and Amber right behind him. My brother was with them too. He'd run straight into them in the parking lot. Larrington let go of my ankle and tried to run, but Darius caught him in about 3 steps, took him down with a perfect football tackle that would have made his coach proud. I scrambled to my feet as Vanessa reached me. Are you okay? We got your SOS alert. I nodded, still trying to catch my breath. My dad, he's still inside, but when we looked, the boathouse door was open and my dad was gone. He must have recovered enough to escape out the back while Larrington was chasing me. Amber was already on the phone with the police. Darius had Larrington pinned to the ground, the professor no longer looking smug or intimidating, just pathetic. He helped my dad kidnap my brother, I told Vanessa, pointing at Larrington. They were working together. Larrington started protesting his innocence, claiming he was forced to help, that he was a victim too. Nobody was buying it. The police arrived within minutes, multiple cars with lights flashing. They took statements from all of us, put Larrington in handcuffs. Started a search for my dad, who had vanished into the wooded area behind the boathouse. My mom showed up while I was talking to an officer. She ran to us, hugging my brother and me so tight I could barely breathe. She kept apologizing, saying she should have watched him better, should have known something like this might happen. It's not your fault, I told her. It's his. It's always been his. The next few hours were a blur. More police, more statements, a trip to the hospital to get checked out, even though neither my brother nor I was seriously hurt. Just some scrapes and bruises. The emotional damage would take longer to heal. They found my dad's car abandoned about a mile away, but no sign of him. The police put out an alert, set up patrols around our homes, the university, anywhere he might show up. By evening, we were all at Vanessa's apartment. The police had advised us not to go back to any of our usual places until my dad was found. My mom and brother took the bedroom. Amber and Darius crashed in the living room. Vanessa gave me her futon again. I couldn't sleep. Kept replaying everything in my head. how close we'd come to something much worse, how my brother had stood up to our dad, how my friends had shown up exactly when we needed them. Around 3 a.m., my phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. My heart stopped until I read it. It's Natalie. Just heard what happened. Are you okay? I texted back that we were safe. She replied that she'd given a statement to the police about Larrington, that she had even more emails showing how he'd helped my dad, that she was done being afraid. The next morning, the university president called me personally. He apologized for how everything had been handled, said Professor Larrington had been fired, effective immediately, that they were launching a full investigation into how the administration had responded to my complaints. Dr. Patel sent an email too, a formal apology, an offer to help with whatever I needed. Too little, too late. But at least it was something. The police called with an update. Larrington was being charged with multiple crimes, violating FERPA, conspiracy, aiding in a kidnapping. He was facing serious jail time. No sign of my dad yet, but they were confident they'd find him. A week passed. We stayed at Vanessa's, then moved to a hotel the university paid for. My professors let me finish coursework remotely. My brother did his baked school classes online. We were safe, but still looking over our shoulders. Then came the call. They'd found my dad trying to cross the state line. He'd been arrested without incident, was being brought back to face charges, multiple charges, kidnapping, assault, violating restraining orders. His bail was denied. I made one final video, not for attention or views, but for closure. I explained what had happened, how Larrington and my dad had worked together, how the system had failed us at first, but eventually worked, how friends and strangers had rallied around us when we needed it most. I ended by thanking everyone who had supported us, who had shared our story, who had refused to let it be buried. The comments filled with messages of support from survivors, from allies, from people who had faced similar battles. 3 months later, I sat in a courtroom again, different this time, watching as both my dad and Professor Larrington were sentenced. My dad got 15 years. Larrington got 5. Neither of them looked at me as they were led away. Outside the courthouse, reporters asked how I felt, if I had won, if it was over. I thought about it for a moment. It's not about winning, I told them. It's about surviving. And yes, we survived. My mom, my brother, and I moved to a new city after that, started fresh. I transferred to a different university, one where the administration actually cared about student safety, where professors understood that personal drama sometimes means life or death. I still get messages from people who saw my videos, who faced similar situations with abusers, with institutions that failed them. I try to help when I can, point them toward resources, tell them they're not alone. Sometimes I still wake up in the middle of the night, heart racing, thinking I hear footsteps. The fear doesn't just disappear, but it gets better, day by day, and I'm not facing it alone anymore. My brother doesn't flinch at loud noises now. My mom laughs more easily. And me? I'm still figuring it out, still healing, still speaking up when something's wrong, because that's the thing about finding your voice. Once you do, it's hard to stay silent again.